Hi friends, welcome to my channel where I talk about how to heal chronic illness, particularly chronic fatigue, but really any kind of chronic illness. So how to heal these when we think that they're caused by trauma. If they're related to trauma, this is my take on how you heal them, how to bring the emotions out of the form of physical symptoms into the form of emotion so that we can work with them. Today I'm talking about how to get out of a chronic freeze state, which is a huge topic. So I'm not going to pretend like I'm going to have all the answers in this video, but I'm going to give you my understanding and what I do when I'm in them. This can apply whether you are in a perpetual freeze state, and a lot of my adult life was spent in this. The 10 years that I had chronic fatigue is that. And as I've healed, I've been in and out of freeze states again and again and again and again. And I will tell you, because it's true, that these states are profound misery. And if you're watching this, and if you have experienced this, you know all too well what it feels like. So this applies whether you are in a constant freeze state or if you're going in and out. Like if you have a trigger sends you, plummets you into this deep, dark hole, this dark, dark place that is so miserable, and you're angry and you're hopeless and you're depressed and it feels like this has always been, this always will be, this is my life. This is just the way it is. That's a triggered state. And it's not the best term for it because it doesn't encompass the darkness and the misery that is being in that state, and the exhaustion and the feeling of injustice. This is not fair. This shouldn't be happening. What the hell is happening? What the hell is wrong with me? Why can't I feel better? What it is? And we're always searching for answers. Okay, so that's like a little bit about what the freeze state feels like. And I made another video a while back about going into what the freeze state actually is, and it's linked to chronic fatigue. And so you can go back and watch that, or maybe that's how you found this video. But in this one, I really want to talk about how do you get out of it, right? So one really important piece to getting out of the freeze state, I will start with, is to be validated. And I made the previous video about the chronic fatigue state because it feels like such a foreign experience. And chances are you don't have people around you in your physical life, like your family, your friends, that understands what that feels like. You might, but chances are you don't. The freeze state happens from trauma, but it's a particular response to trauma. You know, we can have trauma and have responses that are in fight or flight, but I'm talking about this state that manifests as chronic fatigue. It's the collapse state. We go into collapse and there's hopelessness, there's despair, there's powerlessness. We feel so powerless, exhausted, depleted. It's like a soul tired. It feels like not only like there's something heavy on you weighing you down, it feels like the earth is pulling you to it. It's like gravity is stronger than it ever has been and ever will be. It's like gravity affects you more than other people. There's this visceral sense that you're being pulled back down into the earth, and you just want to stay in bed, and you can hardly do things. You can hardly lift your arms. You can hardly walk. Oh my God, getting up the stairs. The simplest things, picking up your child. I've talked a lot about this stuff on my channel, but one of the things that we need when we're in a freeze state and when we have these wounds is to be validated, that you're not alone, and that this actually is a normal response, a human physiological response, one of the options of responses that we have to trauma being activated. And it can be an extremely lonely experience. And that makes it worse. It makes it harder to get out of when we feel like nobody understands. And this is a problem when we try to go to therapy, especially when we're working with a powerlessness wound and a wound to the core sense of self. If you're talking to a person that has not experienced that, you'll be able to feel it. And you won't feel the level of safety that you need because these are really difficult energies to be working with, and you need like a fierce level of safety to come out of it. But I'm going to say it even more simply. What you need to get out of the freeze state is to get to the actual emotion. That's what it is. That is how you get out of the freeze response, is to get to the actual emotion. That is so obviously easier said than done, but that's the concept. Okay, so when you find yourself, if you find yourself in a perpetual freeze response state, or if you're finding yourself in these bouts, you plummet down into these states, and then it takes like days, weeks, months to get out of them. The way to get out of them is to get to the actual emotion, because the state that you're in is a dissociation from the emotion. You're in a dissociated state. Okay, so while this is a simple answer, it's like get to the emotion, get to the tears, get to the anger, get to the rage, and then there are going to be tears underneath. The thing that is underneath, it's at like the bottom of the valley, the emotion that's at the core, the root is grief. Grief is at the root of trauma. That is the emotion that we have not fully processed. But there are other emotions too. There is anger and rage. There might be disgust. There might be powerlessness. And when you're dealing with chronic fatigue, there is powerlessness, and it's a profound energy. There's fear and disappointment. All of these energies are in this chasm, this big onion of unprocessed emotions. But tears are like the root. They're at the bottom, but we've got to get through the other layers too. And shame, there's shame, there's judgment, like all these things. It's like it feels like a big mess of difficult emotions, but it doesn't actually manifest that way. And overwhelm is another energy that we can come up against. But the answer is to get to them. The way to start removing the weight off of us is to get to the actual emotion. So the last video I made was about the 3 parts of healing. And those are the 3 parts: the nervous system work, the cognitive mapping piece, the psychological work, and the emotional release. Those are the core parts of healing. And they're also the core parts to getting out of the freeze state. We've got to hit all 3. We've got to work with these 3 parts, and we've got to work with the first 2 to get to the third. And this isn't a snap your fingers kind of a thing. I'm sorry to say. I wish I could give you like the, slam dunk, this is what you got to do, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you're out. That would be great. That would be great. And a lot of misery would be gone. But we've got to hit all 3 when we're trying. So let's say whether you're in a perpetual state of freeze, or whether you have just like plummeted into this deep, dark pit, and you find yourself at the bottom of that pit, and you're like, what the hell just happened? Where am I? What is this? No, actually, it's more like this again. Great. I'm here again. Yep. This is my life. This is my life. This is how it always has been. This is what my life is. And I guess I'm trapped in it. And I guess this is just the way my life is going to be. Those are the thoughts that tend to come up when you're in this state. And there can also be pissed energy. And those thoughts are a great place to start, because they are indicating some energies that are being dissociated from. They're giving clues as to what the emotion is underneath. So if you have more pissed energy, chances are you've got some rage that needs to come out that does not feel safe to do so yet. But if you have more demoralized, depressed, sad thoughts, hopelessness is probably related to powerlessness. There's powerlessness there. There's helplessness there. Sad energies, disappointed, profoundly just sad. I'm just sad. That's grief. There's grief under there. If the answer is to get to the emotion and release it, that's what releases the cage. Because when you're in these states, it feels like you're in a prison. You're in a cage. You're trapped. You feel trapped. Oh my God, trapped. You're in a prison. You're in a cage. That's how it feels. And how do you start to get out of the cage? You have to start getting closer to the pain, the actual pain. There's a difference between pain and suffering. And that's the difference between having an emotional release and being stuck in a freeze state. Because when we're in a freeze state, no matter how miserable and how much suffering we feel in the body and how much pain we feel, it's not the actual pain. The pain of being in a freeze state is the pain of not knowing and not being able to be with the real pain of the grief, of the anger. Those are the main energies we're working with trauma. So this is not going to happen the first time you try it, okay? Let's see how many times. I'm in the hundreds. Hundreds that it has taken me, and it's every time it still feels the same when you're in it. It feels like this will always be, and I'm trapped and I'm stuck. The first thing to do, I already said the first thing, but really the first thing is to realize you're not sick. You are, but you're not. What's actually happening is you've been triggered, and you've been triggered into the freeze state. This is the first step. You've got to realize what's happening. Realize that you're in the freeze state, and you're in the freeze state because something was triggered. A very deep, old wound has been hit. It's an open wound. Well, now it's open. It's been hit and it's been opened. So it might have been closed, it might have been hibernating, and then something from our current life circumstance hit it. It might have been obvious, it might have been extremely subtle, but something hit it, and it opened that wound like it's been open the whole time, and that's how it feels. So the first step has to be acknowledging and the understanding. So that's why listening to information like this and learning about these states is so important, and learning about emotions and trauma is so important, because you have a reference when you find yourself at the bottom of the pit to have these conceptual models. It doesn't matter how long it takes to figure it out. There's no shame in it. This is very confusing. It's very confusing when you're in it. So confusing. It doesn't really feel like what I'm describing until you hear it, and then you think back and you're like, oh, okay, actually it does. But in the moment, it's so miserable that it blinds you. So the first step is to be able to realize something triggered me. Something is being brought up closer to the surface. And that's another really important key, that when we're in a triggered state, we're actually closer to the wound than when we're not in a triggered state. And that's a good thing. That means that we have better access to it. Yes, our defenses are up and we're dissociated from it, but our misery is bringing us closer to the actual pain. That's good, because that means we've got a better chance of, once we realize that what's happening, we can start to reorient and be like, oh my gosh, okay, I've been triggered. This is an old wound, and it's a core wound. When you plummet into a deep darkness, it's a wound to the sense of self. It's the core sense of self that has been hit. That is deep. And that's why it's having such a profound impact on your physiology, because it is core to, you don't get any more core than that. Okay. It's your core sense of self, your sense of self-worth, that deep sense of self, who you are, that you're valuable, that you're lovable, that you're cherished, that you're important in this world, that you're wonderful, that you're beautiful, that you're whatever it is. That's what's being hit. And that's like the most basic thing to us. So again, that's why it hits us so profoundly. So when we are triggered into this state, or if we're perpetually in that state, that wound is being activated. And so if the key is to get to the emotion, then we've got to turn towards it. Not try to find strategies to get out of the freeze state. Yes, that's our ultimate goal. That's the side goal. The ultimate goal is to heal this energy, not just get out of the freeze state, but to heal the wound that's causing this freeze state. Learn how to be with ourselves in that. That's what we didn't learn. We didn't learn how to be with ourselves unconditionally. We learned how to abandon ourselves. when we're having difficult emotions. That's how we learn to trap these emotions in our body, basically, because we're abandoning them. They can't flow through us because there's nobody there. There's nobody there to connect, to create that safe space. So when we realize that we're in this state and we start turning towards it, then we remember, okay, then I need to embrace this energy and I need to create safety in my body for this emotion to come up. So, you know what I'm going to say if you're familiar with my channel, that's where havening comes in. So we start doing these strokes. And, whenever you realize this, whenever you have the opportunity, you do these strokes around your orbital bone, down the sides of your arms, and rubbing your hands together, creating this softness in the body, because what happens when we're in these activated states is our body constricts. See, what's weird is in the freeze state, it's like, it's not so obvious as when we're in fight or flight, when we can feel our muscles seize up. But when we're in collapse, our muscles collapse. It doesn't feel like we're constricted. But if you can really tune in, you can sense there is tons of energetic constriction. Blocks. No, this isn't okay. I don't accept this. No, I'm judging the shit out of this. I'm judging the shit out of this experience. If you tune in, you will find it. You will find it. And the judgment is the thing. Judgment and the shame are two of the energies that are keeping it stuck, keeping us blocked from getting to the energy. So that's what havening helps with. We're creating safety in the body, that we are here. Even if we can't be here with our hearts, we're here with our bodies. We're here as much as we can. This is sending a signal. We're reparenting ourselves. This is the stuff that we didn't get when we were kids. This is what created the wounds and the trauma. That certain emotions are not okay, which means certain parts of you are not okay, and that is conditional love. And conditional love is what creates illness. So we've got to start going towards ourselves, go towards the pain, that it's safe to have these feelings in the body. It's okay. It's safe to feel this pain. I'm here. We're connected. I love you. I love you when you feel this miserable. I love you when you hate things in yourself. I love you when you're angry, when you're disgusted, when you have contempt, when you're just unbelievably sad. I love you when you're hopeless. I love you when you're helpless. I love you when you're hating yourself. That's how you disarm shame. You love the shame. I love you. I love you when you hate yourself. I love you. I'm here. Now, the minute that you start bringing conscious attention to what's actually happening, you will start unfreezing, whether you can perceive it or not. Because I have had times when that's all I could do, just by being conscious. And it's slow. It is slow. It's you get out of the freeze state slowly that way. Just by bringing constant, reminding of conscious attention. This is pain. This is pain. This is a trigger. This is a wound. This is a wound. It's an old wound. This is not what I think it is. It's not just something being wrong with me. This is a wound, and it can be healed. And I'm here as much as I can be. Just that alone will start to unfreeze the energy. But again, it can be slow. So the way to speed it up is to create as much safety as you can in the body and the mind. And what I just did is creating safety in the mind. It's not that there's something wrong with you, because when we have a shame wound, we believe there's something wrong with us. When we have a wound to our core sense of self, we believe that we're defective in some way. We're different. There's something wrong with us. That's an old wound. It comes from the way we were parented. Our parents, I'm sure, did not mean to do that, but intentionally or unintentionally, there was some way that our parents couldn't be there for us in our emotional states the way that we needed it. And so it can create a very profound, painful spot in our core sense of self. So we're creating as much safety as we can. Do havening as much as you can. Remind yourself as much as you can. And that's the validation that I'm referring to. It's validating. You're allowed to have these feelings. These are natural because of the wound. There's pain in there. There's wounding in there. It's not you. It's an energy in you. Keep reminding yourself of that it's allowed to be here. This is a safe space. I'm just being there for you. I'm here the best I can. I'm here, I'm listening, I'm like trying to come towards you, I hear you. You're talking to your inner child as much as you can. It can take days, okay? It can take weeks, it can take time, but it might not, okay? It all depends on your level of constriction and the conditioning and your ability to bring safety. So the more practice that you can do before you're in this state, the better. The more practice that you've done with havening and self-soothing tools and bring yourself into a parasympathetic state, the goal is always to get to the actual emotion. So to start asking yourself, where is the pain and where did this come from? So when we recognize, so we're doing all these things, then we start, where did this come from? Where is that pain from? Where did the wound to my core sense of self come from? Who taught me that emotions are not okay? Certain emotions are not okay. Anger is not okay. Grief's not okay. Maybe happiness and joy isn't even okay. Who taught me that emotions are not okay? Because when we're kids, we are emotions. That is who we are. That's who we are when we are adults too, but we like to pretend like we're intellectual, like mental people, but we're actually emotional creatures. So if we get the message that emotions are not okay, certain emotions are not okay, that means parts of us are not okay. There you go. That's the sense of self wound. So did you get the message that there were parts of you that were not okay? And who did you get that from? Did you get that from both parents, but in different ways? Making that connection to the past, where did this come from? And with that means it has a valid reason for being there. Every emotion has a valid reason for being there. Through these tools and through exploring, and if you have a safe space to talk to somebody who can create that safe space for you, that will help you even more. Talking about it will help you get out of the freeze state. You're going to want to bring in havening because shame comes up when we can't speak. So when we're in a freeze state, our brain is frozen too, and our lips are frozen. It's like, I can hardly speak. I can speak, but it's like, I can think of just a couple words at a time. Like it comes out really slow. Things are not firing quick. Things are firing really slowly. It's hard to describe. It's hard to articulate. So you need somebody who can just be there with you while you work through it. And what you'll find is that with time, if you're really in a safe space and the other person is validating your experience, you will notice that you're starting to unfreeze. But again, when your brain is shut off, a lot of us are triggered into shame when we feel unintelligent. Shame can be triggered, and so we want to use havening when we come across shame and judgment, judging the way we articulate, judging how we sound. I can definitely relate to this. I have a lot of stuff around intelligence and how I'm seen in terms of intelligence, and we all do because it's programmed in us that this is how we're valued in the world. So you will start to notice that you're unfreezing. You're starting to come out. You're starting to talk a little faster. Your voice goes from this very monotone, deep, gravelly place. It starts to have some intonations, some changes in the volume and the intonation. What are all the words for that? So we're getting closer to the wound, and by speaking it in a safe environment, you're starting to unfreeze. And best case scenario, you're going to get to some tears, and you might want to go through some anger first. You might need to say some really angry statements. But chances are, as you talk, the best case scenario is if you can get to the tears and have a tears release, a crying release, one where you're havening, you're sending love to yourself. You're seeing this as an energy moving through you that's not identified with you. It's something you've been carrying, but it's not you. And if you can do this, you can create that loving space and feel that love for yourself, whether it's energetically through your heart or whether it's with havening through your touch. It doesn't matter. If you can have a release, you will unfreeze. You will unfreeze. You will get out of that triggered state. Depending on how long you were in the state, it can take some time to come out of it. So if you were only in it for, a few hours, then you can get out of it pretty quickly. If you were in it for months, it takes some time to get out of it. And if you've been in it continuously for years, you're probably going to need a few good releases and speaking to get out of it. So those are the steps. This is how we get out of the freeze state. I've had it happen again and again and again, and it works. But it's not like when it happens to me, I'm like, okay, 1, 2, 3, bang, I'm out of there. No, it's like every goddamn time. It feels like such shit that when you're in it, I'm sorry for my language today. Maybe I have some anger bubbling up somewhere from a trigger. That's a sign. That's a sign. If you were like, if you're cursing a lot, you might have some anger that you're not fully present with yet. I should go be with that. So every single time it feels so bad, and it catches me off guard every single time. Because every time that you go in it, if you got out of it with a release last time, well, it doesn't always have to have a release. You can get out of it without a release. That's just the biggest shift that you can get if you have a release with it. But you can get out of the freeze state without having the release, and that's what's going to happen in the beginning. When you're first learning how to get out of these states, you're not going to get to the tears. It takes time to get to that level of safety where you can get to the tears, where your body feels safe enough to do that. So, every time still to this day, it's like I'm caught off guard and I'm like, what the hell is happening? And I have to backtrack and be like, what triggered it? But doing that, so you acknowledge it, you're like, why do I feel so bad? Why am I so exhausted? Oh my gosh, I'm in a triggered state. Emotion is trying to come up and it's getting stuck. There's an emotion here that's in my unconscious that I'm not fully aware of, that I need to do this work to get closer to bring to more consciousness, to get as close to it as I can. Best case scenario, release it. But these are the steps. These are the steps to get out of it after being in and out of triggered states so many times, in the freeze state so many times, starting out in a perpetual freeze state and then going in and out. And in the beginning, it was like most of the time I was in the freeze state and I would have these short blips out of it. And I was like, it becomes this foggy mess that it's like, how do I even make sense of this? Well, that's what I'm trying to do for you here. So identifying the state that you're in, realizing you have to turn towards it, looking back, finding the trigger. Where was I triggered? What was it? Where did it come from? What's the original wound? If it's attachment trauma, it's going to be one of your parents. What's the original wound? And can I get closer to it? Can I start to talk about it, articulate it? Can I create safety in my body, create safety in my mind? De-shame this stuff, that it has a reason for being there, a good reason for being there. And there's nothing wrong with me. This is a wound and this is pain that hasn't been processed. Okay, my body is taking me back to childhood right now, and I need to go towards it and love it in a way that I've never loved it before. And then, inch your way towards the wounds. Can I talk about it? Can I articulate what I'm feeling? Where did it come from? Can I bring up some tears? So those are the steps. This is huge energy that we're working with. The freeze state's really hard, but in my experience, these are the components that will get you out. The goal to getting out of a freeze state is to get to the actual emotion and be with it in a safe, loving space. And it takes all these steps to learn how to do that, but that's how we do it. So I hope this was helpful. I hope you're doing well on your healing journey. If you're interested in support from me, if you'd like me as a support part of your journey, I'd love to work with you. You can make a coaching call, a free one initially, and then a paid one after that. On my website, it's laurenvorhees.com. It's linked down below. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to work with you. If you like this video, push that thumbs up, and if you think it might be helpful for somebody else, share it with your family, friends, anybody you know who you think it might be helpful to. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I look forward to seeing you again on the next one. All right, take care. Bye.